Hey there, how y'all doing? All right, today I want to say a quick word about developing film, specifically Ilford HP5 or its practically equivalent Ilford Pan 400. I'll say something about that in a second. So I'm calling this video "What Works for Me," and I'm calling this video "What Works for Me" for a reason. Because when a lot of people talk about developing film, they get kind of, how to put it, a little dogmatic, and they'll say, well, this is what you should do. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm telling you what I do and what I have found works for me. For example, there are some people who will push process film in, say, in Rodinal with stand development. That strikes me as a little nuts. I've always thought of Rodinal as a low contrast developer. And if I were going to push process something, I certainly wouldn't use stand development, in which you want to increase contrast. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that I don't do it. And I'm not picking on anybody who does. So if you see someone else who says, oh yeah, push processing and stand development with Rodinal, yeah, absolutely, it works like a charm. Listen to them and do what they say. Or no, not do what they say, but try it out if you feel like it. Like any good science, it should be capable of duplication. You should be able to duplicate their results by using their method. So give it a shot. Also, if you're just starting out developing your own film, my suggestion is be open-minded, try a number of different things, but try to settle on a couple of combinations, a handful of combinations, that is film developer combinations, which work for you, which you like, which give you consistent results, and that way, that gives you a greater degree to control the results because you know what's going to happen. You look at a given scene and you say, aha, well, for this lighting, the best results are going to be with, what have you, with, HP5 and Perceptol or whatever. Don't think that the key to becoming a great photographer means trying 100 different ways to develop, a dozen or two different emulsions. I basically shoot Ilford HP5, FP4, Film and Pan 100, and that's probably 90% of my black and white work right there. So this is what works for me. I really like Ilford HP5 and at an exposure index of 320. If you're new, EI means exposure index. An exposure index is simply your own chosen ISO setting, basically. The Ilford HP5 is rated at 400. That is referred to as the box speed because that's the speed on the box. Right here. Here's the box. And there's the 400. And Pan 400 obviously has the 400 in the name. So when you see instructions for development written with the developer and then a number like this, it'll either be, say, this is the dilution. So I write it 1 plus 3. You can always, sometimes you'll see it given as a colon, but this means the 1 is stock solution. The 3 is water. So 1 part of stock solution with 3 parts water. So the resulting solution is going to be 1/4 stock solution, 3/4 water. And I develop at 25 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius using normal agitation. And normal agitation generally means 10 seconds every minute. Agitate the tank 10 seconds every minute. I use the swizzle stick. I used to invert, but the tank isn't 100% watertight always, and so you get some spillage. And so I just said, well, the heck with it. I'll just use the stick. I mean, but it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. It really makes a little difference. In my opinion, or a difference which is so marginal as to be almost not worth noticing. So the other result I get that's really good is with Microphen. Now, Perceptol is Ilford's powder-based developer, which is specifically designed for pulling. Microphen is Ilford's powder-based developer, specifically designed for pushing. So, and those are the 2 developers I tend to use the most. I also use a lot of Rodinal. Or a fair bit of Rodinal, not a whole lot, but a fair bit. So at exposure index of 800, Microphen 1:1, 15 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius. And these are Ilford's recommended times. I found them to work for me just fine. So this EI 800 or Exposure Index 800 I found works really well for indoor portraiture. An exposure index of 800 is going to give you enough light. If you're using, say, a fast normal lens, at f2 or something like that, or thereabouts, this should give you enough of an ability to handhold shots with a good fast prime lens, and get some really nice results. In my case, with indoor portraiture, I thought it would just work beautifully. All right, a word about HP5 Plus versus Pan 400. So Pan 400 is a brand which Ilford sells in, for about lack of a better term, third world markets. I live in Israel, which apparently is half a third world market because we can get both. So, but in my experience, if Pan 400 isn't HP5, it's pretty darn close. I have developed both of these films, both of these emulsions, shot at both of these exposure indices from the same photo shoot in the same tank, and received virtually identical results. I've also done that at 1600, but with Pan 400 as well. So if Pan 400 isn't HP5, it's pretty darn close. I read somewhere it might be the old HP4. I really don't know. What I do know is that I have developed this in the same tank with HP5 and received virtually identical results. So you can use the same development times for Pan 400. Now, about development times. You notice this development time, this is 25 minutes, that's 15 minutes. I want to say a couple things about development times. First of all, I like to keep development times over 10 minutes. And the reason I like to keep development times over 10 minutes is because it gives me a little bit of flexibility in case I goofed something up, in case I didn't quite measure the chemicals perfectly, or in case my thermometer might be a little bit off, or I didn't get the reading. If the reading comes in like it's like intermediate and it's not quite on the mark, and I sort of have to ballpark a guess at what the right what the right time would be. That gives you a little bit of leeway. The shorter your development time, the less tolerance for error in your development time. Okay, just think about it. A 30-second error in development time is going to have twice the effect at 5 minutes as it will at 10 minutes. So my recommendation is try to keep your development times over 10 minutes. That has worked for me, and I've had very good success at it. Secondly, with regard to developing temperature, you don't have to obsess over 20 degrees Celsius. Ilford makes this nice handy little chart, which is the film development time temperature compensation chart. And here are times given. The gray column is 20 degrees Celsius, and you can compensate between 18 to 27 degrees. So as long as your solution is between 27 and 18, you can time compensate. You can compensate the time. I live in a very warm place, so frequently the water coming out of the tap where I live can hit 27 degrees. That's not uncommon. In the summertime, sometimes it goes higher, and then I really have to worry. Then I try to get it down below 80. I don't go off the chart. I don't extrapolate from the chart. I will. 80 is as high as I'll go. So if I'm shooting with this combination, Perceptol 1 to 3 at 25 minutes, well, that gives me plenty of leeway, because 25 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius puts me at 13 minutes 15 seconds at 27 degrees Celsius. So I'm still within my preferred 10-minute minimum. And I find that it gives me the flexibility to goof up a little bit. I'm not a chemist. That's not my profession. Never have been. But I do this pretty well, and I've been doing it for years. And I think one of the reasons I do get good results is because black and white film does have a lot of flexibility. HP5 is one of the most flexible you can get. Very tolerant of a little bit of error here and there. But my advice: try to keep your development times over 10 minutes. You're just giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room on the results there. Okay, so I think that about covers what I wanted to say today. If you watch other videos, get opinions from other people. Try things out. But be careful, be wary of anyone who says that, who thinks that they're like, coming down with the tablets from Sinai and telling you, thou shalt use this combination under these circumstances. Anyone who says that with regard to black and white processing should be immediately ignored. Take my advice, try it out. If it works for you, great. If not, I find that this combination for indoors, you can barely tell it's been pushed. I mean, the increased graininess is like barely perceptible. At 1600, if I push it to 1600, then yeah, I see increased graininess and contrast, which is pushing my tolerance of how much contrast I want. But 800 with Microphen, one-stop push with Microphen is virtually nothing. Microphen is designed to push, so it handles it really, really well. And Perceptol just gives, if you're photographing a high contrast scene, but you don't want a low ISO film for whatever reason, this is just dynamite. If you want to really maximize the exposure latitude of the film, this is just an absolutely dynamite combination. I have had wonderful, wonderful results with it for years and years. Cannot speak highly of it enough. Incidentally, speaking of being dogmatic, I'm going to put out a suggestion or a question. So here's my statement, and you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay, listening. Film and emulsions have exposure latitude. Scenes being photographed have dynamic range. Film does not have dynamic range. Okay, you got that? Or a sensor as well. When we talk about the flexibility of the medium upon which you are recording the scene, I think the proper terminology is exposure latitude. I believe dynamic range properly refers to the range of shadow and light within the scene being photographed. Not that any of that matters at all, but we all love to argue over trivial stuff like this, and why the heck not? So I'm just going to take a position on that and see if anybody thinks that I'm full of poop or agrees with me. Who the heck knows? Let's all have some fun. Most of us are still sitting at home bored anyway. All right, hope you're having a good day, and I will talk to you again real soon. If you enjoyed the video, if you found it useful, please do subscribe and check out the links below. Thanks now. Bye-bye.